The RCM Green Room welcomes indie comic creator Jonathan Colton. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey.
Thank you for doing this, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's terrific, man.
Yeah, we appreciate your time too. I saw your videos. I was really looking forward to meeting you and to this interview.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, those links you sent us, a lot of good information there. I love the trailers on your current campaign. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the comic I'm campaigning on right now is The Three Brothers Gruff, and it's a reimagining of the classic children's tale, The Three Billy Goats Gruff.
Yeah.
Except they're not billy goats, they're satyrs. It's a fantasy story, and they are troll hunters for hire. And it just it came about because, you know, it was one of my favorite stories as a kid, and I did actually a version of it at one point in art school. The children's book illustrated it, and I just had this idea, like, well, you know, what if, you know, our stories and fables are kind of misconstrued through time?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what if you go all the way back? It's really something different.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what if they were troll hunters and satyrs? And so I thought, yeah, I thought that was a really fun idea. And I thought, you know, surely somebody has already done this. And so I started Googling it all over, and I couldn't find anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Where anyone had done it. So I was like, well, I guess
that is interesting. I like the idea of looking at something from a different perspective, like Wicked from, you know, Wizard of Oz, how they swapped that around. But to do a children's thing and that is such a cool idea.
Yeah, and I think it probably, you know, the nucleus for it was probably from McFarlane Toys. I don't know if you guys remember, he had a toy line at one point that was Twisted Fairy Tales.
Yeah.
And he, you know, they came out with some really awesome toys, but they never touched the Brothers Gruff. So like I said,
cool.
You know, kind of falls on me.
Oh, that's too bad, man.
Somebody's got to do it.
That's right. So you've got this set up on FundMyComic, is that right?
Yeah. FundMyComic.com. If you just search Three Brothers or Three Brothers Gruff, it'll pop right up. And that is a new website, but it's basically Kickstarter, but only for comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really great, really user friendly, really easy to set up a site if you're a creator, and really easy to buy comics from if you're buying comics. And so I love that site. They've been really great.
That's terrific, man. I know we've backed a few comics that go through FundMyComic, and it's easy to back, and so far the fulfillments have been terrific.
Yeah, it's you know, it's the new it's the new hot thing, and you know, I think they're hoping, and I'm hoping, that it can just continue to grow, because it's not only is it way easier to use, especially than Indiegogo nowadays, but they also take a much smaller percentage from the creator. And
good point.
That's, for me, that's a big reason why I appreciate direct-to-consumer comics, is because, you know, the creator is getting the lion's share of the money. And
there you go.
And they own their own properties. and and they get to have creative control and own all the rights to everything they create. And a lot of us just feel like that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's the way I
does.
Feel.
Yeah,
because it opens it up to more creative, creative stories, creative art. It introduces us to more opportunities of seeing great storytelling.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the team that you've assembled on this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was really fortunate when it came to the artwork. I was able to link up with Vincenzo Mercogliano, and if you have trouble pronouncing that, it's because it's Italian, and he's out of Italy. He's he's a well-regarded artist in the Italian comic scene, and he mostly does historical comics and adventure comics, and but just really excellent work. And I contacted him through Facebook, where I came across his stuff, and I asked him, like, hey, would you be interested in doing some comics for me? And I sent him the script. He loved the script. He was really excited about it, and he said, he wanted to work on it. And what he was most excited about is in the Italian school, because they have all kinds of comic books in Italy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not like the United States. Like here, 90% of comics sold are superheroes, and in Italy they do everything. And so they have action adventure, science fiction, fantasy. They have a lot of children's books. Everyone loves to draw Mickey Mouse, and Donald Duck is super popular over there. But the rules are kind of different. And so because he normally draws historical comic books, which was what caught my eye, because I knew I would need someone who was good at drawing horses. And so, but I saw some of his horses and swords and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy could be really great for this. But what I didn't appreciate yet was he really had to change up his storytelling and the way that he does panels. And he had a ton of fun just kind of doing American style action, because when you're working in Italian historical comic books, it's kind of like the old DC, how they used to have this rule that you couldn't break outside the panel.
Right.
And so in Italian historical comic books, they have a lot of rules like that. And
kind of looks like the old classic illustrated stuff.
Yeah. And so he just had a ton of fun on my book, kind of breaking all the rules, and also just doing the character designs, because that's where we started. And it was kind of funny because I'm an artist too, and I like to stay busy. But when he started turning in pages, I had to swallow my pride a little bit, and I was like, man, this guy's better than me. Like, like this stuff looks amazing. And his character designs, he kind of gave everyone their own individual plates of armor, and designed the armor and the costumes, and designed everyone's individual weapons and what they were going to look like. And I was like, wow. I was like, are you sure you want to draw all this every time? Because
the stuff looks terrific. I know when I went over to check out the campaign and I saw the artwork you had posted there, the character designs are interesting. They are individual. You can tell the personalities just by looking at the individuals. The villains look terrific. you've got a good spread of what to expect there on the FundMyComic site. And it drew me right in. I mean, I decided after just a couple of weeks of watching your posts on X and checking out the campaign, let's go ahead and back this. I think this is going to be a really spectacular comic.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it is, and well, I know it is because the only way I could get Vincenzo to do the art is he made the mistake of reading the whole script first.
Good idea.
And he fell in love with the story.
So when you're dealing with an Italian artist, how do you guys communicate? Is there a language barrier? How do you overcome this difference in language?
Well, for reading the script, he was just able to put it through a translator and translate it into Italian. But we've had a few conversations on Zoom, and I didn't tell him this initially. I kind of surprised him with this, but I actually speak Italian.
Right on.
Yeah, I was an Air Force brat growing up, and got to go to Italy as a teenager, and then later on a mission for my church, I was in Italy for 2 years and got to really learn the language. And so, we had scheduled this Zoom call, and he had said, well, I'm going to have my girlfriend here because she speaks way better English than I do. And then his girlfriend couldn't make it. And I said, well, it'll be fine. Let's just do the call. And then, I just came on, and I was like, ciao, come vai? Io parlo italiano, possiamo farlo così. And, just kind of surprised him with that one. So that was kind of fun. And
yeah, no kidding. That's terrific, man. Well, another aspect of the artwork, and David really jumped on this, was the coloring, the painting.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, when we were first looking at this, we thought these were paints. These were actual, because you do promote the fact there's no AI art here. This is all real, real art. Not that AI isn't art, and I'm not going to get into that debate, but actual, traditional, let's call it traditional comic art. So, and David was looking at that real closely and going, man, this is good stuff. So maybe tell us a little bit how that developed.
Well, the colorist is Febri Ferdinand, and he's out of Indonesia, and he does great stuff. He's worked for, I think, Dark Horse and, some of the other big publishers that you'd know over time. But we were looking at colorists, and we had 2 or 3 that we were thinking of, but I wanted to give Vincenzo kind of veto rights as far as who the colorist is, because it's his pencils and ink that have to look good up there. And so we had one that we looked at initially who I think just kind of colored everything super bright and super colorful, and was just really showing off how much color he could put on each
page.
Thing. Yeah. And it was like, we knew we needed something a little more subdued, a little toned down, so that the colors could kind of heighten and show off the pencils and inks that are there. And Febri, he was like, yeah, I can do that. And
he's accomplished that. It's really spectacular looking comic.
Yeah, I like the depth. The colorist is what brings things forward and pushes things back. You can't do that much with inks, but the colors, and he did a really good job of that, making me feel like this is forward, and I feel almost like I'm looking at 3 dimensions there. So he is doing a good job of making the artwork, or emphasizing the artwork instead of emphasizing color.
Yeah, and that's kind of a challenge, I think, for a colorist also, because it's a little bit like being the letterer, in that if you're doing a really great job, you don't stand out.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an invisible art in that way.
Yeah. Well, it's a team thing, right? And each is giving their own, unfortunately, interpretations of the original artist's idea, of his concept. And it is hard to keep from, so easy to sway away, to move, because you think he's gone a certain direction, or you think that he's trying to put a certain feeling. That's it, is the feeling. So, yeah, it is tough, and they don't get credit for being able to do that, to interpret the original artists' concepts.
Yeah, it's a little bit like being a really great linebacker.
Oh yeah, that's
the quarterback and the receiver get all the credit, but you did most of the work.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's really the art. In fact, there's one thing with you talking to the artist. I got this feeling you had the script, give him the script. The script sold him on becoming your artist.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a story from Hollywood. The writer gives the script to the director, tries to sell the director on it. The director then, gets the actors and the cameramen and everything else, and he's doing all that. Yeah, it was like that discussion. A graphic novel is wrapped up into a little book, the same things that comic book, graphic movies have. In fact, movies are often now driven by what goes into a graphic novel.
Yeah, well, we definitely have seen that a lot recently. The thing that springs to mind is 300, and I think that's, to my mind, that's one of the top 2, top 3 best comic book movies ever made.
Yeah, I agree. Man, 300 was almost exactly like Frank Miller's illustrations. I mean, the camera shots, the whole thing. I agree with that. It was a spectacular. Zack Snyder, what an imagination. And to be able to do all that with the technology of the day, it was really cutting edge. And now it's commonplace. That technology is just rolled right over. I want to jump from this campaign for just a moment and talk about your previous graphic novels. You've got a very interesting book that I ran across. Why don't you talk a little bit about the Nephilim and the Nosferatu?
Right. Well, it's kind of become the unofficial subtitle, is the last Nephilim versus the first Nosferatu. And it's Paul Bunyan versus Dracula, #1.
Yeah.
It's 52 pages. And again, this was a little bit different origin. This came about while I was watching a documentary about the history of movie monsters with my son. And at one point, he turned to me and he says, "Dad, I don't think any of these guys could beat Paul Bunyan." And and I was like,
all right, yeah.
I think you're right. And then again, I was like, well, that's an idea. And started Googling that, and I was like, surely someone has done this before. There's got to be a Paul Bunyan versus Dracula comic book out there or something. And I couldn't find anything. So I was like, well, I guess it falls on me. And so I started writing it. And the first thing I realized I had to do was probably shrink Paul Bunyan down a little bit, because if you're familiar with some of the tales and the classic cartoons, he's hundreds or thousands of feet tall.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're checking out. And there's the story that he once dragged his axe behind him and carved out the Grand Canyon. Well,
right.
that was a little too big. And so that kind of brought to mind the classic cartoon Godzilla versus Bambi. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
I've never seen that. That's hilarious.
But basically, it's like 5 seconds long. You've got Bambi eating some grass, and then a giant foot appears, and then that's the end. Yeah.
Just happened to be strolling through Bambi's backyard.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm going to need a bit more story than that. And I'd been watching Game of Thrones, and I really liked the size of the giants on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
They were about, 16 to 22 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, an 18-foot giant seems like that would be a fair back and forth with Dracula.
Yeah.
And so it's really, it kind of evolved into a love story and also a classic battle of brains versus bronze. And, and Dracula is using all of his magic and metaphysical things to control Paul Bunyan. And Paul Bunyan is fighting back with his strength and his size. And
that's about the size of, I guess, the biblical Nephilim, or about in that range. I mean, Goliath, they say, was roughly 10 to 12 feet tall, and some of his brothers. But, it makes it even more interesting when it's not the 50-foot giant, or, it's like King Kong, Peter Jackson and the original King Kong. He's roughly 25 feet. Well, that's really big.
Right.
And now with the Godzilla and Kong series that's so popular, I mean, these guys are as tall as skyscrapers. It's like it's almost too much. It's entertaining, but the original Kong stuff, I think, is I don't know, a little more enjoyable to me. And the Nephilim aspect, I've never thought about that with a Nosferatu, and I thought that was a really original idea. Now, is there a digital version of this?
Yeah, there is a PDF available also.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, and so
terrific.
If you want to get caught up before issue 2 comes out, that's a way to do it as well.
All right, there is an issue 2 then.
Yeah.
All right, news flash.
Yeah, so the first one is 52 pages, but it's funny because, again, it started off as a 5-second cartoon joke, and then as I got into writing it kind of became this love story and this epic battle, and and there's certain themes that are going on, and I was like, well, it's going to have to be at least 5 issues. So that's what we're working with, and on issue 2 that's underway right now, I'm actually doing the inking on that, so that we're kind of spreading out and sharing more duties. And I did the cover art on the first issue, and so
excellent.
Yeah, that's kind of how that collaboration looks.
And I understand you were a forensic artist for law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was a police sketch artist in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 12 years.
How interesting.
And got to work a lot of cases. Probably the most, everybody knows the Bay Area has a lot of crime. So I basically got to do anything you can imagine: robberies, carjackings, homicides. The most high-profile case I worked was involving a serial kidnapper, and that was a case that ended up being done in conjunction with the FBI, and they were able to to find him and to catch that guy. And
right on.
The the funny thing again about being a police sketch artist is you really have to check your ego, because the way I was trained, and my trainers were very experienced. They had worked 30 years with the FBI, and I went through their sketch school. But I was trained that when the witness or the victim, you're drawing it and you're getting feedback, and there's a lot of back and forth. But once they say, that's him, that's the guy, you have to put your pencil down and stop, because you've nailed it, or you've captured something so that they now recognize the person.
Yeah.
And so other people that know this person are going to recognize those features, and they'll be like, hey, I think that's so-and-so that I know. And so you have to stop drawing. Now you might think, hey, you know what? I can make a better drawing here.
Right.
Or I think I know what this guy looks like now, and I can finish this up better. But once they say that's him, you have to stop.
There was another thing that I came across that you were involved in. I thought was really pretty entertaining. You caught some comments that Bill Maher made about Stan Lee, and you put a video out, and we'll include this link on this video in our comments area. But talk a little bit about that. I really got a kick out of the fact that you defended Stan Lee so eloquently in this video.
What apparently had missed Bill's radar was, Stan Lee wasn't just a comic guy. Him and Jack Kirby, a lot of the early creators were people who fought in World War II, served their country, and then, came back after the war and made comic books. And one of the things that Stan always talked about was how Marvel comics were actually written at a college sophomore reading level. And so, you and I and every comic fan knows when you're reading comics growing up, you're constantly learning new vocabulary, and and expanding your mind. And I think about all of the concepts that they came up with, things like, everything from life on other planets to alternate universes,
right,
and multiverses, and all these things that were just far out science fiction in the early comic books. And through some rhyme or reason, now those things are being studied as, real theoretical science. And, it's not really just kid stuff. I probably took it a little personal because, Stan Lee obviously was one of my heroes growing up, not just because of his contribution to comics, but I said I was an Air Force brat as a kid. And at one point, my dad was away for the first Iraq War, and he was gone for about a year. And during that time, I think I was 13, maybe 14. I drew a picture of Captain America and mailed it to my dad as, encouragement, and it came with a letter. And then my dad, unbeknownst to me, mailed that picture to Stan Lee, and Stan Lee mailed it back to me. He had signed it, and he had written notes of encouragement to me. And, and I mean, I remember coming home from school with my best friend, and, check the mailbox, and it's like, wow, here's a letter from Marvel Entertainment, Stan Lee. And I'm like, wow, what the heck is this?
Yeah, no kidding.
And then I open it up, and it's my own drawing, and and there's a note from Stan, telling me what a great job I did and keep up the good work. And so I know that that he did a lot of those things for a lot of people over time. And there's thousands of stories of times where he reached out for fans of comics and comic readers. And, I just feel like it was a bit of blasphemy on Bill Maher's part.
Well, I tell you what, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. I think we're gonna call it a wrap. This has been a great interview with you. I want to make sure and encourage you to continue to create your own comics. I think Stan Lee would be very happy to know that his influence on you has moved the art form along.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
David, any last thoughts you might want to put forward?
No. I've actually had to put myself on mute most of the conversation because our neighbor decided that they're going to do their tree trimming next door. And I swear it sounds like it's right outside the door here. And
oh my God.
So I'm getting this pounding and, I had to mute it.
Are you sure it's not Paul Bunyan out there?
It could be.